Well, Marcia wasn't kidding when she said
Let me just say this. Everybody is so interesting. You know what the thing is? You go around the city, you go around town, you go around the state, you travel all over. And, you know, I should have known I was in a room of actors. Everybody is so specific. Everybody looks so beautiful. It's like a garden. You just sort of God tipped up the world, and all the interesting people are actors. You know, we don't look like regular people. You know, regular people tend to look like each other. They do. And the ones that don't, then they make themselves look like each other. But y'all are just so specific and beautiful. So, this is good.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Marcia wasn't kidding when she said that we've got a lot of great questions from this audience. It's absolutely true. And that's a good thing because it makes my job that much easier tonight. And I'm really tired, so I'm going to try to stay focused here and be right here with you. But we are so delighted to have you, so thank you again.
I'm really happy to be here. Thanks.
You know, I always like to start from the beginning. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What was that like?
Okay, I turned 50 this year.
Oh! They're telling you look good, though. So
it's not hard. You just keep on living, and then you're 50. But so my story is so boring to me. Okay, long time ago. Let's see. Okay, so I grew up in Tulsa, in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have a brother and a sister. My brother's 4 years older. My sister's 6 years older. My father was from a family of 12. My mom was from a family of 12. My mother's people were sharecroppers. They're Texans. My father's people ran for land in Oklahoma. So they were landowners who came from Texas to run for this land. They all lived on the land. They came to the city, so I had a good life. My father was he could, I'll tell you about him later. I'm sure he'll come up, because it's a lot in terms of shaping the way I look at the world. And so there is a lot of comfort, but at the same time, really not just my extended family, but the extended family of community. Even community you didn't know was very important. And so that's where I think my sense of social action comes in. Mm-hmm. And so I just had a really wonderful, colorful upbringing. And I think that anybody, especially my mother's family, they were all like, you know, African American with native grandfather. So a lot of kind of crazy conjure storytelling kind of thing. My father's family was very sort of stoic. You know, I practically genuflect to my mother Woodard. But my big mama was one that like laughed and fell around a lot. And like she ended up with diabetes and they had to cut her leg off. And so, no, it wasn't sad. And so she came to visit, you know, and so she was in a wheelchair at this point. My mother, who was like a little munchkin, was trying to help her onto the bed, and they slipped and they both fell on the floor, my one-legged grandmother and my mother. And so they were on the floor just laughing and screaming. And my father came in and he kept saying, Mom, this is his mother-in-law. Mom, she goes, that's not funny. You have one leg. You shouldn't laugh. And which made them more hysterical. But that family is where I get the storytelling from. And growing up, probably in my family, I would say I was the least likely person to become an actor until I realized what acting really was about. Because you know, the family's together all the time. Everybody drops by the house. My mother had big pots of food, and you know, everybody in the family from around the city would come by in the evening. You just say, what's for dinner? And everybody's eating. And you tell stories. Every time you gather, you tell stories. And a lot of them are the same stories. And you retell them, and everybody likes to hear them, and they like to go, oh, you lying. And so the stories become more exaggerated. But as a kid, as soon as that baby, you know, like the little 2-year-old is watching, And so they'll chime in eventually and say, I want to tell you about, and then they say something, and they don't cut you slack. If it's a little kid, they say, what? And you get the floor. And if you don't command attention, they go, shut up. And people keep going. So if you want to be heard, you better get in there and you better tell that story and you better make it good. And there's no better props than when, you're 5 and you tell a story and all they do is sort of saying, look at that girl, and everybody's giving it. So when I think about it and what I think that the roots of the very thing that we polish and do, what the roots are, I think that's what prepared me, and I feel like probably the reason I became an actor as opposed to some of them was that I was just on that. I know my brother wanted to be a photographer, and he's quite good at it. And I can remember he went to college, he was his sophomore year, and he fell in love with a girl and married her. But he said to my father, he was like studying, basic education or something like that. And I remember him saying to my father, I've decided to major in photography. Now, he tells this to this black man who has made this whole way of life for us, And my father said, you want to take pictures for a living? And my brother also he was a big athlete, but he was a poet. He wrote poems, he was just this very sort of sensitive, muscular guy. And he said, you have lost your mind? You are going to be married to a woman and take pictures for a living? So, but I think by the time I came along and I was the youngest and a girl, that when I said, I think I want to act. And I never wanted to act until I was 15 and I got sort of coerced to be in a play. And so it was okay, but by then. So I think it was, generationally, as a black middle-class woman, to, if you didn't become a doctor, lawyer, or something like that, it was like active. So, but he did it to my brother, and I think it was because he was a man, and also just that 4 years made the difference. But anyway, so to all that to say, I think one of the things that I was probably more primed for it, even if I had just stayed there and done community theater, was that I think actors are the ones that observe, I don't know, you probably sense this, is that sometimes it can drive you crazy because you have fantasies about people, and it's like, whoa, I can remember just sitting somewhere in public and just being absolutely intrigued watching something happen. And then I start to identify with the people and it's like, I got too much of my own stuff. Why can't I take my eyes, and why is it breaking my heart while I watch this go on? And then, you start kind of like mouthing with them. And so all those people that we've ever seen all our life, that's why you never have to worry about finding a character. You never have to worry about your well going dry, because our minds and our eyes take pictures at this incredible rate of speed, and it's all stored in us. And it's a matter of relaxing enough, training to let go enough of the body and of the personal ego to find that person you saw sitting on the bus stop, a quality about them that might add to whatever the character is you're trying to portray. But I think we are not just the exhibitionists. I mean, exhibitionists there are a lot of people in our business who simply are exhibitionists. And, they're the ones that was in the baby contest and they did well, and then they were in the beauty contest and they did well, or whatever. But those of us that just, yes, we tend to speak up, but more often than not, when we spoke up, we had a lump in our throat. But it's that thing is that the drive to speak up was stronger than the fear, that the anxiety that accompanied it. So, but it's really the fact that we have watched so much that we know human behavior, and we can reproduce it, and it intrigues us. So I'm kind of off the subject, but growing up. Yeah.
Now, after all of that, though, why did you think that you were the least likely to become an actress? It seems like it was always there.
I learned later on, I realized that it takes that ability not only to speak up and to say, I'll turn a cartwheel with just my underpants on, you know. Not only having the sort of balls to say, you know, I'll share that with the whole world, but it's that, I think a real actor is somebody that has, you know, even before you knew it, like, and we're lucky enough to realize that's what it was with us, that, oh, you know, because I remember when, you know, when I was young, they just thought there was something wrong with me. But when you're an artist, like Picasso was always Picasso. Can you imagine him as a 5-year-old? And whether anybody understood what was going on with him? And whether he thought, and if there wasn't some way that that could have come out where he could use his fingers to get that out of him, he would have been in jail, or he would have been, you know, people, we know how many people that burned out along the way because they didn't have the heart to do that thing that I think also makes you successful in business that has nothing to do with your talent. But anyways, so you know, I can remember when, you know, I got in this play because this nun sort of said, you know, you have to be in the play. Somebody dropped out, and she knew I memorized stuff really well, quickly, because I was in her lit class, and they would say, you know, I thought if I could just give her a paragraph from that book, she can't mark it wrong. And, you know, she would, and she said, you know, I ask you, I read the book, I know what Mr. Hawthorne thought, I asked you what you thought. So, but she knew I could remember passages. Mm-hmm. So when the Sharon Shanahan, who was the school troubadour, got laryngitis, I had to be in the play. And I said, oh no, sister, I couldn't possibly stand up. Now I was a cheerleader, I had no qualms about jumping up in front of people and screaming, but there was something about getting up and pretending. There was something so vulnerable about it. I said, oh no, I couldn't possibly. And she said to me, it's not for you, Alfre, it's for God.
Ooh. Well.
And
well then.
And I had a good life, had a lot of love around me, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna do this and then we're even. But
and here you are still working off that.
But once I did, what happened was, it was as if, because I was always a little odd, but you didn't know what, and you kind of tried, you felt normal, but I was odd, but I was popular. You know, some of us are odd and they ostracize us, and then they want to come when you're well known and say, you know, come talk to our children. I say, don't you remember y'all used to think I was crazy? When did I get legitimate? But it felt like, so I felt like I had been walking around just doing the breaststroke all my life, but everybody kind of, you know, allowed for it. And then somebody just tipped me into the water, and suddenly that movement just made all the sense. It was like breathing for the first time. It was the most incredible sense of freedom I've ever felt. And I just thought, you know, it's like I constantly want hits of that. Do you know how it is? It's like getting a job is tough. Standing up trying to do the behavior to convince somebody to give you the job is very rough. You know, it's like doing business with Tony Soprano because, you know, the business is underworld, frankly. You know, and y'all know it's the truth. And you're trying to get, like, you can't insult the person's intelligence, but you know more about what you're doing than the person sitting there, but you're trying not to lose your dignity by pandering to them. So it's, you know, there's that whole dance, but, you know, it's worth that hit of freedom when you're actually, the work is where we live. But, you know, I'm a lucky person, and you spend like less than 1% of the time in the middle of that thing that is why we do it, but we put up with all the bullshit just to feel that sense of freedom. And that sense of freedom is your connectedness to your creativity, and that creativity connects to the creator. There's one creator, so you're actually locking into a force. You know, we don't create ourselves, so we never have to run out of not having ideas. We can't screw up. It's not like creation is ever appearing from the nature of its inexhaustible source. So all you gotta do is just give me the job. I ain't gonna fret it, I ain't gonna care. I'll come up with that. So all of that to say, so the nun, you know, when she rang and she said, oh, you know, Mr. Woodard, Mrs. Woodard, Alfre is quite an artist. And so they started saying, oh. So it's kind of like, that's what's the matter with, before they,
That explains so much, yeah.
They used to take me to the doctor. I just remember being at the doctor, nothing was hurting, and I would sit on a table, and they'd say, doctor, how you open your eye when you're little, and they look at me like, and then they would talk, and they checked me for worms. It was like, just we don't know if something is wrong. And one time I did this thing of, I would get phobias all the time, but I just started walking like this. Okay, I can't go far, but I would walk, instead of alternating, I just go like this. And so my brother and my sister, they laughed, and they said, and then my mother said one day, my mother kind of chuckled, and she said, stop that. And I said, I can. She said, you stop that. I said, no, I can't. And so, it got crazy, and, they threatened to spank me, and I said, no, that's the way I walk. And so, you can hear him somewhere. And, I remember going to doctor. I just remember this guy, Dr. Smith, this old white doctor, saying to me, he's my pediatrician, and he'd say, does it hurt if you walk the other way? And I said, I don't know, I just can't. And then, obviously, eventually I stopped doing it, but those are those little things that we have that as artists that, people don't understand that that's all your stuff. That's your mojo. And if you don't have somebody around you as a kid to say, oh, that's your mojo, then you start thinking you have all kinds of problems. But all of that to say what? That's how I started acting.
That fortunately the nun put you on the right track there, I read somewhere in this the briefing that they gave me here that you have a strong connection to the land. Is that a place that you still go to kind of find a sense of calm? I mean, what is it about that connection, and how does it feed the artistic side of things?
Well, I don't know if it's that I grew up being able to see from horizon to horizon. I'm sure everybody's experience is different. What is that thing where you feel peace, or where you feel balance? And for me, I remember, going to New York. Our family traveled all the time, but every time we would go east, I was anxious all the time, even as a 4 or 5-year-old. And I realized it's because when I started to work, I knew I just didn't like it. Didn't like East. So I went to BU, trained on stage, because I had intended to come to California to live, because my mother said that I told her when I was 4 that when I was a grown lady I was going to live in Southern California, and she asked me why, and she said that I said because the sun comes out every day and you can go to Disneyland anytime you want.
2 good reasons.
So I'd always planned to live here, although I never planned to be an actor till I was 16. Mm-hmm. And so when I left BU and I moved here, everybody else in my class went to New York. And so then I get a job and I have to go to New York. So what I would do was I'd get in the bed, and I never fell asleep laying in the bed. I was just kind of there snoozing and idling, and then I'd get up and keep going. But, when I'm in New York, even if you're just going to the deli, it's like I have to have this gait or people will take advantage of me, or I'll fall out of step. So even in the deli, you're saying, oh no, I'm next, just competing and know you have nowhere to go. It's my turn. And what I learned is the only time, I didn't mind doing a show in New York, but the only time I was comfortable and free was when I was on stage. So I'd get off stage in between shows, and I'd start having anxiety. I would either run to the East River or run to the Hudson and just look out over New Jersey, over that way, and breathe for a while. And then I would run back on stage. But on the way through, it was like this. But if I was on stage, I was fine. But so I just,
that land,
the land thing. And I think, my people are from the land. And I think when people live on the land, they get closer to their own humanity. It's harder to get sort of distracted by mental power play and material one-upmanship. Not that you don't love to have all your stuff while you're on the land, but it's just, it informs us in a different way. I think everywhere in the world that I go, I immediately connect with people who live on land or come from land. Even, you know, I just do. It's an equalizer, because when my father tells me stories about, you know, when the Depression came through Oklahoma, you know, they were landowners, and maybe this farm right here, they would be wiped out. If your farm was doing good, then you gave food to everybody around. And it wasn't, you know, white hobos would come and my grandmother would feed them. It just, because that's that's an equalizer. It shows you, like, I don't care what God you pray to, what color you are, you know, if your crops don't work or your crops do work, you see, oh, that could be me. And you realize that you're in the same boat. And so a whole dynamic happens. So I just enjoy land. And here what I do is I go hiking. I go up into the Santa Monica Mountains. I just walk. Whenever I need peace, I go walking.
Yeah.
I want to tell you something too. I am just like
so easy for
just
me.
a regular girl. I have no idea. I can only just say what I'm talking about. I have no idea. I'm a mother.
Yeah.
I'm on the mommy tip constantly. This idea of me as like it just doesn't exist. You see, I was chasing children. I tore my pants because Duncan, my 9.5-year-old, was trying to show me a jump shot, and I was trying to play ball with him before I left, and I fell and ripped my pants, and I had to leave, or I could be late and go change my pants. And then I said, oh, I'm going to the Gill. Well, they don't care if my pants are ripped. So anyway, so I just wanted you to know, it's like, I'm just talking. I have no idea. It's not a blueprint for anything. By the seat of my pants, by the grace of God, the only thing that I can say about myself, that my input into it is, I just knew all along, I am not going away. I am here. I'm not going away. So you're going to have to find something for me to do.
Before we came out here tonight, we were talking briefly in the green room that isn't green, and you were saying that, I mean, that you're not a celebrity, that and you spoke about that on a practical level, and you kind of just touched on it there on an emotional level. Explain what you were explaining to me back there. You know, what level have you gotten to, and what does that get you, and what does that not get you?
Well, you know how in America, anybody that's in the paper or People magazine or whatever, you're a celebrity. Whether you shot somebody, whether somebody kidnapped you, we live in that age. So, and what you'll find, and you'll have to forgive them for it, is the public doesn't care why you're well known. If they've seen your picture somewhere, they think you know, it is. I mean, it's like Elizabeth Smart. People are bugging that child because she got kidnapped. Like that was part of her doing. You know, or if John Hinckley is, people want his autograph and all. So I just said that I was not a celebrity. You know, especially like one of those, like an actor, celebrity person thing. Because I said,
term, right?
I said, what I am is like I'm a up-in working actor. And that's true. So, I just am very fortunate that I work consistently. But to get very technical, I haven't had a salary raise in about, and I'd have to really think about it, but I haven't had a salary raise in about, 8 years. And you remember when, and it all happened, and I can tell you when it happened. Remember when Michael Eisner and them, it used to be like, you all know this, if you work, you start out and you get, the minimum. And then if you kept getting the jobs, your salary go up a few $1,000s each time. Well, now, as you know, and this craze went because all the corporations own us, there's some people that they can work for minimum, and the next time they get $5 million, and then the next time they get 15, the next time 20. And that's great, because they make so much money. We should never begrudge the people they get paid $20 million when we know they ain't doing nothing. But don't begrudge them because they are making hundreds of millions of dollars off of all of us. So that some of us need something. But what happened was, remember all y'all that are old enough, suddenly there was a memo that allegedly leaked out. And it said, it was over at Disney, and it was like, there's a recession, and so we won't be able to raise actor salaries and directors and all that. And we have to cut the costs and all that. Well, what it was, and I remember that within 2 weeks, somebody made me an offer, and I said, no, I'm supposed to get more than that. And they said, well, it's a recession, it's a cutback. So as soon as they said it, and then Michael Eisner or Jeffrey Katzenberg, when they were together, one of them said something like, well, that was an internal memo that shouldn't have gone out, as if trying to act like we didn't want it to know. It was intentionally linked to lay the seed in everybody's mind that we're cutting back. And it's at the exact same time that people started getting mega salaries. So that was just to kind of make the public, so they could go to the public and say, isn't she terrible? She's complaining, and we give her $10 million. So they badmouth the ones that the 10 people they'll give that money to, but at the same time, suddenly there's a salary cap. And all of us that should, because it used to be that you would go up. Well, we've been at the same point. And then everybody that was under that, they cut them back down to a quarter of what they were making. And what they say, well, there's just no money. There's just no money. But at the same time, they are making unprecedented revenues. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But that's when it happened. But then what happens is your agent, my agent, everybody says, all you have to do is let's drop that little seed, and people will believe it instead of everybody stand up and saying no. No, it's not true. So anyway, why did I say that? So I am, compared to anybody in America, I'm a rich lady. But compared to the amount of work we do and how long I've done it, I am like an up-end working actor. Now that's in terms of the business. But also, in terms of my heart, I am a working actor because when people give me something to do, I work it, I do it. I'm not a personality actor. I don't have enough personality to wing it. It's like, you better give me a good script because I need something to do. I do not have beauty contestant skills. So
it's the first thing they said to you when you walked out here.
No, you got to smile and not let it drop and all that. But the other thing is, I cannot get a movie made. I have never, in their terms, made box office. Movies I've been in that have made money, it was a whole group of people, and so they want to say none of us were responsible for that making money. And most of my stuff makes the biggest money in video, frankly, and they get sold to television. I'll tell you a thing that I did. Remind me to tell you something about What's Cooking, this thing that I did. But I happen to know that there's a great script, and the lead is a female. Michelle Fifer wants to do it, and I shouldn't be telling her business because she didn't tell me this, I heard it. But it can't get made. Michelle Fifer can't. There's only about 2 women that could get a movie made and about 6 guys. And they've got, I know y'all know about this thing, this is just the truth. They've got this list, because I have about 6 things I've been trying to produce, like actively every day for the past, 8 years. And so you're saying, okay, well, this is who I want. So it's like, Alfre, we want to do it with you, but you need a white guy. Who's going to be your white guy? And you name a white guy, and they said, he's not, like a younger white guy. It's like, well, I said, well, it's about these, 2 grown people who are having a love relationship. Well, does one of them have a son kind of like Heath Ledger? No. And so I'm not even, I can't tell you the brilliant actors who all have long filmography, and they'd say, and this is for something like Showtime. It's like, please, you got a captive audience. Why, And they'll say, oh, it's not this. So then I got handed a list, and it has 1 through 100, and you rate it on there of your bankability. And anybody basically below 15, above 15, you can't get a movie made. But you would just go bananas to know that how people are at number 70, like the best of us, who have made the bucks too. It's just like, I mean, it's so, you guys, okay. So anyway, so yes, so I'm not a person. I'm the person you hire either when you don't know what to do with a role. It's like, Alfre will think of something right here. Or I'm the person, if you wanted to, I bring legitimacy to projects. And, it's not it's like, but I'm sort of like, decoration that really ups the ante on the whole thing, but I'm not, so that's what I say when I'm not a celebrity.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about what's cooking now, or should we?
Oh, I just want to tell you this.
Yeah.
Gorinda Chadha, who's a brilliant filmmaker, I did a piece called What's Cooking with her, and y'all should rent it if you hadn't seen it. It's just wonderful. And she did Baji at the Beach before that, and then she has Bend It Like Beckham out now. It's just brilliant. And, but Gorinda, it took, this movie cost like $1.5 million. It took me, Kira Sedgwick, Juliana Margulies, and Mercedes Ruehl for $1.5 million. All saying yes within 24 hours of each other before she could get that money. It couldn't be one of us, 2 of us, 3 of us. It had, and Lainie Kazan. It had to be all of us.
Wow. And
they said, and then when, the agent said, I can get them. And they said, well, and they tried to make it harder. Well, but you have to tell me by tomorrow that they'll all do it. Well, they didn't know that he represented 3 of us. So we just said, yeah, we'll do it because the script was so wonderful. But, it took all of us. And it's not atypical. I mean, that is the way that it happens. It's, well.
Do you think that fear of taking the risks by the folks who are responsible for greenlighting these pictures, is that driving down the quality of the potential that exists out there?
The potential of?
Well, if it seems to me that people are less willing to take artistic risks. They're looking at what the bottom line is. It's a business run by bean counters more than anything. And does that ultimately affect the quality of the work that's out there and the potential that exists?
But the bean counters aren't afraid of taking artistic risks. They have no artistic sensibilities, so they don't know the difference.
Good point.
There's no risk. You're risking when you're casting people because of the way that their body looks or their face looks.
Right.
That's the risk, but they're willing to sell it. Now, they could just as well sell any of us, but their fear is, well, America needs a cosmetic look. I mean, it's even if you're the psycho killer, there has to be something kind of sexy about you, so that when they do the promotion, they'll have a hot new sexy person, But so there is no risk, This is what these, and I feel too familiar. If those cameras went on, I would be a little more profane. But this is what, these people, they would be so rich if they would just put their money on this room. They have no idea, because that is what people want to see. But what they will say is, no, everybody went to see it. Everybody turned it on. Well, they turn it on because it's a seductive medium. You'll watch it no matter what's on. They're watching reality TV. We are crashing and burning as a society. You come home from work, you just need something buzzing. So you're just going to turn it on. I mean, you'll even sit through a George Bush speech. I haven't fallen that low, but because it's my only sense of power. I like to let him say a couple words and I go, shut up. But all of that to say is that, so there is no risk. It's just that, the problem is, I mean, there were problems before this, but in the past 12 to 15 years, you could go over to a studio, and there was a guy there, and even if he wasn't a creative genius, he had a sense of risk and wager and all, and he had a sense of what was interesting. And if you could kind of figure out a way to do a song and dance or somehow capture his imagination, there was a person that was in charge. Now, there is no guy. There is a corporate entity that is also selling electronics and making movies. So just all around the world, as the towns have died off, the auto industry dies in one town, the steel industry, and it goes around. We are a union. And the same way as those towns are blighted across this country, and they take the work to a place where they don't have to pay, we are a union. We're one of the last, once those Reagan years hit, they set out to decimate the American labor movement. And so we're one of the last vestiges of American union. And they look, we're part of their pie, their corporate pie. And it's like, oh, it's not happening in Ann Arbor, we're going to have to shut that down. Oh, it's not happening in Duluth, shut that down. Okay, Hollywood, y'all, what do you call them? The cassette, not cassette, what do you call them?
DVDs.
Yeah, the CD player sold a lot this year. We got money off of them. Our Hollywood operation isn't working. So they're going to make decisions based on how, like sort of pork belly commerce, how they make the decisions about the other things that they're marketing. So we're in a stage where we cannot take it personally even more when they don't get us as an actor. I mean you individually now. When they don't get you, more than ever, don't take it personally. More than ever, don't feel like they have power and you don't. And I'll tell you where your power lies in a minute. But it is because it's something that doesn't even speak our language. So if you're game for it and you got the sort of the stamina, the tenacity, and you want to do it, then you try to figure out how to outsmart it. But know that you're not outsmarting something that makes sense on a creative or artistic level. You're outsmarting something that is the market, is part of the stock market, frankly. But
So where's the power?
the only power you have, even before it got corporate, when it was just a matter of, you don't look like whatever's the thing that's selling. Or, you're older now. Yeah, the majority of Americans are older. You're a size 14. Yeah, that's the average size of the American woman. You look, I got told I look too much like an African for years in Hollywood. You don't look African American. It's like, this is what we look like. And, you don't look like an American. Well, you know what? Americans look like me. Whatever you're looking like. So the only power you have is your mind, how you think of yourself. And that's why it's so important to nurture yourself spiritually, it's the only defense that you have. Because what this whole system says is there is power and you are tiny. And at my whims, I will, sort of allow you to do this or that. Now, people who have no talent and no creativity are saying that to you who are connected with the ultimate power. So you've got to know while they're saying, your nose is this way, you just need more breasts, your pecs aren't quite, whatever they're saying, you have to not take it personally and not be angry about it, because bless their hearts, they're so afraid of losing that job because they turn over every 3 years. So they're trying to guess. They have no idea why something succeeded, so they're scrambling for their lives. And it appears that they have power. And it's just like, if they don't get you, it's like, good. Because if I, what if I had to work for this motherfucker? Is it worth the money that they're going to pay me to have to stand here and deal with, if he doesn't get me now, when I'm vulnerable and I'm on a roll and trying to work, and he's saying things like, okay, yeah, well, while you're in the middle of that moment when you find that your mother has been decapitated, could you just make sure you put the Arrowhead bottle, because they're, they do that shit, Oh, yeah. It's like, so your power is knowing, and you have to, you have to know that whether anybody ever gives me a job, I am the actor right now that I'm ever going to be. And if they pay me $20 million, good, but it still won't be enough. And if they pay me nothing, if it is the right script, the right role, good, because they can't pay me enough anyway. So you have to know that whether anybody ever acknowledges it, anybody ever puts it in the paper that you are the bomb, or I got that thing that she was doing. Because if people got you, you wouldn't have come from your hometowns here. You would be doing something else if they got you. You'd be in the junior league and doing things like that. So we had to leave because they didn't get us. It doesn't mean they didn't love us and all that, right, but they didn't get us, or we wouldn't be drawn to this thing of saying, I have a calling, I got something to say. And what it is that we feel like, hopefully, I can say it in a way that it's not getting said, which keeps us from competing against each other. Nobody can get your job. If they don't give you a job, it might be their own thing, it might be timing. But let me tell you, if it is a job for you and you are open to it and you have presented yourself, if they still don't give it to you, they give it to, Mattie Jean, then that was Mattie Jean's job. Yes. And you have to keep knowing, you can't covet, because the thing is, that gift that you are giving is a matter of timing. Yes. And that's the sacredness of it. And our work is to not fall into the trap that they like to do of pitting actors against each other. Yes. Or of saying, this is what this one has that one doesn't have. So, and we have to constantly forgive in our hearts. When people say things that are rude to us or they are just insensitive, we have to forgive them. And because otherwise we take that with us and it gets etched across our face and we go into the next situation with it. And when we have a chance to do something, it's not ourself doing our work, it's reactive. Yes. And I'll tell you, this is just about the power that we have. If nobody ever says you are it, you have to know I'm it. Think of the artist, think of it, and we have this immediate gratification age now. But and again, everybody got tons of video on themselves since they were 6. It's like, but we have to think of ourselves in the tradition of true artists. How many artists that they're now paying millions of dollars for their work and hanging in museums, how many of them got lauded while they were alive. We are ahead of the curve. And, you know, if the curve don't get us, that's fine. All we can do is just keep working in the way that we know how. You know, sit in your living room and say, you know what, I feel like I want to read some poetry out loud. Get your friends together for dinner and said, let's everybody do something. Let's, you know, or find those people. You'd be surprised. Neighbors and just friends, and just say, you know what, me and four of my friends want to read y'all a play. I mean, that's our life. And sometimes people might pay and we put it up on a larger context, but our reason for being is to heal. Yes. You know, ever since man first stood up around the fire, there were those, you know, one or two people, the griots, who, you know, everybody's kind of sitting in the evening, they've been hunting and gathering, and they would stand up and they would act out the lore of the tribe. And it holds the mirror up so the tribe can know who they are, have an idea where they're going. They laugh about it. They show when, like, you know, Bobo, you know, was running back when the saber-tooth was after him, and, you know, and right. So that's who we are. You know, we're that tradition still. We're those people that during the Elizabethan times, you couldn't come in the front door. We couldn't get an apartment. No dogs, no actors. We're still those people. And because of the age we live in, regular people want to say, oh, because they think it's magic to be on TV. All it takes is a camera. Right. You know, it's not magic. So don't get seduced by how many people in the grocery store go crazy like you, because they do it for whoever was on TV for whatever reason, on the news. Right. So what we have to know is that is who we are. So the market can change, the technology can outgrow us. We will continue to survive, because what we are here to do, even if it's in a $50 million movie and there's a crew of 70, is we are a crew of 70 functioning as the one storyteller to hold that mirror up. It's to whether we're making people laugh, reflect. People, you know, in the world need so much balm, collectively and individually now, is we give them stuff to come into that dark theater, to come home and sit in their underpants when they worked hard and didn't get paid much that day, and to sit there and watch us just walk across the screen in ER, don't even have a line, you know, but somebody sitting in Plains, Georgia will say, he looks like me. And that gives them some sense of value, or, you know, that's my cousin's story. That's what we're doing. You know, and we have to know that we're doing it in an arena that is absolutely insensitive and has no idea. It's almost like we're subversive. And you also have to forgive those people around you who just, you know, there's other thing that happens anywhere in the world where you were growing up, or a person was growing up, and people say, ooh, you're so cute, he's so handsome. You know, you ought to be a movie star. That's the first thing you say. I don't care if you're in Islamabad, whether you're in London, or whether you're in Dallas. You ought to go to Hollywood. So there are many of our sisters and brethren around us that they just came because of that. And you can't, and they will get the job sometimes just because of the way they look. And you don't blame them, because they didn't hire themselves. So you have to stay open to everybody and know that, you know, we're all in it together. We are the people that speak the same language. And then there's those others that we have to try to, you know, and I think of it this way. You know, when there's, and I'll let you talk, I'm sorry.
They're not here for me, I don't think, you know. Wild guess.
You know, especially since I started raising children. I used to not take it personally in a different way, but when I started raising children, I have just exceptional, beautiful, rotten, ungrateful children. One named Mavis. She's not really, but they're just wonderful and interesting. And I'd actually rather spend more time with them than you know, even my friends. And I got really interesting friends, but they're irreverent. They understand irony, and they're respectful of us, myself and my husband, but they're not afraid of us. But you know, when you're raising kids and like, you go to get in the car and the 2-year-old, 3-year-old says, you know, this is my car. And, you know, and you're late going somewhere and you say, you have to sit in the back in the chair. My car, hanging on, my car. And you start going, come on, we gotta go. And you try to peel the little hands off and you know, you don't even care if you break it. It's like, get in the back. Well, you know, one day Mavis did that to me. She goes, my car. And I said, no. And I kept sort of muscling her and I said, do you have a license? She said, no. I said, well, in California, you have to have a driver's license to drive, and you don't have one. And if you drive, you're going to get stopped, and we're going to jail. And she got out and got in the back. Which, all I mean to say is that I started, as I was, you know, sometimes in offices, whether it was network, studios, I realized I was dealing with toddlers. It's people that sometimes on a set, directors, costumers and all, when people are doing that and you think you want to say like with them and you just think, you know what? Somebody's mother didn't say that's not the way to get what you want. So instead of taking it personally, you just let them like, and you go, I know. And you just still do whatever you want to do. But, you know, when you think of it that way, and if a toddler, you know, kids will say to you like, your feet are really big. You know, you smell, I smell your armpits. You don't say, you know, someone be my baby. You don't hate a kid. You just, it's just like, they don't, you know, so again, it's not taking it personally. It's their point of view where they think the world revolves around them. This production is mine, mine, mine. Yeah. Okay, I'll shut up.
Oh, no, God, no. This is so good. I mean, this is just great. This is great. Let me ask you about training. You went to Boston University and you majored in drama, right?
In actually acting.
In acting. And I mean, how important is the studying part? What?
I can only act. I can't do drama. I can't teach drama.
Yeah, right. What she said. How important is learning the process, you know, in sort of an academic context or in that, you know, in a workshop and...
Okay.
Or is it more by doing? Do you learn more by doing or do you learn more by theory and then doing?
You gotta train and then you gotta do. And as you're doing, you're actually doing sort of homeschooling. You're taking it out, you know, it's like being in driver's ed, but you gotta take the driver's ed. But you learn from dodging the traffic and, you know, doing that. Right. But I think, again, that thing is, some people just have personality, and that's the kind of acting that they do. Right. So, and if it calls for a bubbly whatever, and some people just bubbly, then they can always depend on that. But they end up playing whatever that one thing is all the time, and even in a script, if somebody's bubbly, they got to go through changes, and so people don't realize that. I think the training comes in. That's what you know. It's like saying, I want to do heart surgery. Well, then you need to learn about the heart. You need to train. You just can't go do it. So training is that thing that allows you to stand. It allows you to say, you know, we all have the gift. But when you just rely on the gift, sometimes you're relying on your ego. And that ego gets in the way because what you want to do is get that out of the way to create your character. So all your characters don't look like or feel like you with something put on top of it. The other thing is that we can't control our ego sometimes, and we might just want to perform a character in a way that makes us look a particular way we want to look or be heroic or whatever. The other thing is sometimes you just feel tired. And then you can't rely on it, or sometimes you feel afraid, or sometimes, you know, you have personal problems. So that's, and you can't depend on that whatever your personality is. So the skill, the talent that you have it's our responsibility to turn that into a skill. And a skill is something you can depend on. It doesn't matter whether there's an earthquake, come hell or high water, what is going on, whether you're having to perform it in, Kabul, is that you can depend on it. That's what we have that the people around us, that's where the world collides, is the people around us, and even who are in charge of us, don't necessarily have skill. And that's what they should respect about us, but that is what they usually fear about us. And so they try to control us in different ways, especially humiliation to try to control us. So all of that to say, skill is very important, because you know what? When they're making you feel tiny or attempting to do that, you can just sit there and know, you can just know that they are a small person treating you like you have no value. But you need that to depend on. So when there's like slam, 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 you don't look, you don't sound, then you have your skill. It's like, that's part of that still understanding that they don't get you. And you have to understand, just the same with social justice. We don't work for social justice only to see the result of it, because it doesn't work that way. It's great if something happens on particular things you're interested in and work on, but you work on it because you're part of a continuum. And so it's the same way with your craft, is you honor it. I mean, that's why if you don't honor your talent by honing it, then you've been given this to walk through this life with. That's an honor. The same way that some of us have children, we've been given to sort of shepherd through this life. Your craft, your talent, your skill is a child, a healing child that you've been given responsibility for. So I am a very strong, whether you get it, and you find out where you want to get it, whether you get it in a conservatory, whether you get it in workshops, whether you get it in classes. If you even haven't done that, you can create your own learning experience. Say you're in, Waco, and there is no good acting teacher. Then you develop, and I hope I'm not insulting somebody like the fabulous Stanislavski of Waco, but you develop your own rigorous way of, I'm going to take this amount of time in a day, and I'm going to follow people, not stalk them, and I'm going to work on gates. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on letting this go. I mean, there's a lot of books, good books that you can pick up, like Bobby Lewis's books. You can pick up Christian Linklater's books and work. If you don't have the money or the time, or you don't feel like the person, and there's a lot of people giving classes all over the country. Intuitively, you will know when somebody is legit. Intuitively, will you know. It doesn't mean that they can't be somebody that's really odd and different. You don't want to run away from an experience that might be interesting texture for you later on. But, you know the difference between, fiefdoms and personality sort of parading as acting classes and whether something is legitimate. And, you can always just sort of switch, but it is important. All that said, if you've done training and you feel strong in your craft, then all you need is work, because it needs to be like you need to be in motion. Like, say you're a sprinter, you can stretch and do all that, and you can sit and you can look at the films or you can visualize, but unless you are sprinting, you don't know the things that come up to hone that into this incredible run. So hopefully you will, the more you work, you will do that. And when you are working, you take each time. You don't think, oh, I got to deliver for whoever the director is this week, or, ooh, everybody's going to see me on NBC, so I got to make it good, or, ooh, they gave me $20,000, so I better do this right, or any of those things, it's just, I get to be in the lab today. It is still your work. It is nobody else's work, and you're not trying to please anybody. You don't let them know that, You just say like, even if they've got bad ideas. You don't say like, well, I feel like, you just go, and you do whatever you want to do. Because they won't hit you, so you ought, every opportunity you have to work, that's where you put all your nerves, your anxiety. It's like, oh my God, I finally got it. No, ain't nothing that right. I got it because I'm supposed to have it, because I'm supposed to be right here, right now, to work on my sprinting. I finally got free lab space, right?
Do you remember what job earned you your SAG card?
I remember my AFTRA card. I think I guess. You know what? I had these jobs early on, like a day or two. So, and you know what's interesting? I think one of my first, commercial jobs, because I'll tell you about my other jobs, was with my first sort of TV job where you felt like you got asked by the regular TV people to do something. It was with Kim Cattrall. And I forgot the name of it, but I just remember us in front of a house, when you look back on it, and you're all aware and you say that line over and over and over, try to say it different ways, you try to make some of it. What you didn't realize is that was not a script. But you were trying to make it work. Yeah. But it was, and we were in a yard saying something to each other, but it was with Kim Cattrall. I have no idea what it was.
Okay.
But I think God, what was that? Oh. But when I said my first commercial job, because what happens is, because people were saying that kind of thing about me, my first job on screen might have been for Alan Rudolph, and Bob Altman was directing it. And, I would go and try to be the person, and literally these agents I had then, were a reputable big agent, would say, Alfre, I say, I heard such was happening, and because I knew my girlfriends were going on, they said, no, that says for a cute black girl. And I said, and I would say, oh, okay. And then I'd say, all my girlfriends, I won't name them because they would be embarrassed, all my cute girlfriends, they would go, and I said, well, I'd say, anything happened? They said, no. And I said, well, I heard, and they said, no, it says attractive young black woman. and I'd say, they'd literally say, it's not for you, it's for attractive young black woman. And I say, oh, okay. And again, I didn't take it personally because I didn't think I was pretty, but, my mother thought I was cute. And so, I've been told, it's like, you cute, then you say, it doesn't count if my mom says it. But when you're in Hollywood and somebody's saying, no, your eyes are kind of bulgy, well, you just remember your mother said, yeah, I love your big old eyes, So all that stuff feeds you. But so the people that offered me jobs were people like Bob Altman, and which, who knows if I had been a person that the commercial television world picked up, I might be a big shallow, rich woman by now, but but luckily for me, it was like-minded sort of, people who, who were more interested in the people that are usually put on the edge of the frame. They're more interested in putting those people in the center frame. So I did that kind of work at first. I remember saying to Bobby Lewis, it was Marty Ritt. We were talking about this. Martin Ritt was just, he's a remarkable man. I loved him as a man and a person. Talk about, we don't get to have those experiences a lot now because our directors are only 20. But he was a man that had come up through the group theater. He's just done some of the most brilliant work, as an American filmmaker. But and I would sit, and pick his brain about the group theater, about anything, and what happened on this day that this happened. And he was constantly saying, get to work, learn your lines, because I just wanted to have that experience there with him. But it was people like that were interested in me. And so I remember after Cross Creek, and I had gotten a nomination for it, and I went to him and I said, you know what, Marty? I said, and I'd done maybe 1, maybe 2 pictures of Bob Altman. I said, I just want to be able to be like a normal person on a television show. And he said to me, I said, like, nothing outrageous, just the person that they hire because, she lives there and she's the wife and she's doing things and she goes to work. And he said, why do you want to be a normal person on TV? And it was because, it was something I hadn't learned to crack. And I always like a challenge. And so he said, I tell you what, I said, I feel like my acting is too sort of specialized. I can't just sort of go like this and be like, hello, how are you, Mary? I'm fine, how are you? I started him going like, hello, Mary, how are you? I don't know. And I started like thinking like, and he said, if you feel like you gotta get in the class, he said, what, you don't need an acting class? I said, I need a class because I need to figure out how to be normal on screen so I can be on TV. So he said, call my friend Bobby Lewis. And I remember calling Bobby. He lived around the corner from me actually then in Santa Monica. And I went over and I said, what I really want, and Marty had told him, so he sat there and he goes, I said, I really just want to be able to play a normal person so I can be on TV. And he said, oh God, no, why? And he said, I want you to come to class, and the thing that I hope most for you is that you're never a normal person on like goddamn TV. So
You got the TV though.
So I got, like I said, if people, and I had this great, wonderful agent who rescued me from the people who kept telling me I needed, and they came in one day, they said, if you're gonna work in this business, you need to look more like Diana Ross. And then he said, this is 25 years ago, and then they said, well, kind of Diana Ross crossed with Jane Kennedy, because it was like, how did you think about it? Diana's a little dark, isn't she? She's a diva, but she's dark. So, but anyway, but this person, David Eidenberg, believed me, and he took me on and all. But so since then, I've just had like the best blessings of having an agent. I had David for about 10 years. Then he left the business, and I've had Steve Donville for 10 years. I've had these people who got me, believed in me, and would say, "Oh no, you're not going to work." They've never felt like they needed to make money off me or that they needed importance by me showing up for something. But what I was going to tell you was about, so again, as an African American woman, now I've been here like 28 years, I think. If I was able to be in films every day, then I don't know what my career would look like, how I'd be feeling. But because there are constantly obstacles, I realized early on, you go where the interesting work is. And David helped me with that. So sometimes I might be on a film, sometimes on TV. Sometimes I'm just on TV for the episode. Sometimes I'm like doing street theater, some of that. So, and I do a lot of narration for documentaries. I went to the voiceover department, so I said, James Earl Jones, he's got a lot of money doing that, and then I can, so I don't have to, I can make some money. Well, the only people, like, T-Mobile and them never call me. The only people are like, you know what? We only have $1,000, and it's going to take you 3 days to do this, 3 8-hour days. But you do, the Malcolm X documentary. I mean, I've just done the most incredible documentaries, and I learned so much. That's the only reason to be an actor is because every time you do something, you got to learn about it to go do it, So I think that's why we keep our young spirit, is because we know we're in it for life. We're in this learning thing. But it has meant that I have never been bored by the fact that I was an actor. And it was because, who knows, you never know where a blessing is. You have to look and see where the blessing is, because Okay, yeah, I got a nomination. No, they didn't ask me to do nothing after that. No, I didn't, yeah, I had a series. No, they didn't ask me to do that. So it's like all of those things. If they had said that, I might be in like, Beer 2 by now, who knows? And making buku bucks. But it was like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do next? So I've just had this wonderful career of meeting incredible people, and they were always people who got me and I got them. Otherwise we might as well be, in Omaha selling the insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go to some questions from the members. Jennifer Lauren asks, since I was a kid, I trained hard at my craft as an actor. I've found that since I've come to LA, my morals, my intellect, and my ideals have been challenged. Did you ever find that you had to give up any of your values or understanding of your craft to succeed?
Her morals, her, what else?
Ideals, her intellect.
No, as a matter of fact, no, I haven't. And sometimes you might be tempted when you're young, or if you're the only one of a big group of people feeling a certain way. None of us are above kind of pretending to go along with the crowd, because if they ain't gonna get it, they're used to trying to broach the subject with them. But I think it's because I have always had a community of actors around me who we were all going for the same thing. That's why I said, don't stay away from other actors and not befriend them because you're all going to be up for the same roles. Or even if you're different sexes, because we get jealous when our male actor friends get all the roles and but remember that actors are your people. Don't be around somebody that's destructive, but just understand that you can be around those people because that's your community. Make it actors, but make it other people in your neighborhood who you would break bread with or just talk at the fence with if you wouldn't break bread with them. So keep your circle of people around you how you would normally be. So you can't make Hollywood like a period in time you're gonna go be in this vat. The years that you are here is your life. And you have to treat it like the quality of life you wanna have. And if I hit it, great. But if I don't wanna wake up when I'm 70 and have been in the bullpen, not having a life. So whatever your morals would be, wherever you are. And I'll tell you something else. There's nothing like saying, I can't deal with it. I don't think that's right. If you say that in a group of people that are being in a way that you find, out of step with you morally, more than likely, they're not going to ostracize you. If the ones that do, then that's good because it separates the wheat from the chaff. But anybody in that group worth knowing, even if your morals are diametrically opposed, even if your political views are diametrically opposed, they're going to respect you for it. And they're going to, so there's nothing ever lost. And certainly not your intellect. That's all that you have, are those things that the ideals. So, you can't do that thing either of saying, I'm just gonna put on these pasties and shake my ass until I get to play Antigone. Because if they pay you like a whole bunch of money and they put you in the paper and the magazines and you're celebrated, it's going to be, because you are willing to do that for position, you're going to be afraid to take the step to play Antigone. You're not going to know what actually got you there, or you're going to know that and not trust. If you don't do it, it won't happen. So if you don't have a sense of what your boundaries are and what your, having position is not going to change it. So even when you don't have a pot to piss in, you got to say, this is what I'll do, and this is what I won't do. You know?
Thank you. Good question, Jennifer. Catherine Griffith asks, I saw you in the most marvelous production of The Winter's Tale in New York City. What was it like to work with James Lapine on that show?
It was, he's a lovely man and wonderful, but I don't really remember anything that he said to me. Or, I just like him a whole lot. And the thing that was great about it is that his sensibilities as a musical director lifted that up to a different level. And then there was that guy from Juilliard who is like a Shakespeare teacher who came and taught everybody, worked on their text, who, like, a lot of the kids in the play had gone to Juilliard and they knew him, or a lot of the actors. But I fled from him. And I ran and found Kristen Linklater. I went up to Massachusetts to find Kristen, because he was saying to me, lift your voice at the end of the sentence, lift your voice. And I said, okay, but why am I lifting my voice at the end of every sentence? He just said, because you lift your voice at the end of the sentence. And, I had one session with him, and I went to James, and I said, I'll be back in a week. I said, I can't work with him because, the truth is, we all know when we work Shakespeare text, yes, Americans have a tendency to let the voice drop at the end, but you don't direct somebody by just saying lift your voice, because you're like, okay, I can do that, but why am I doing it? And that'll make this whole thing work. So I went up for a week, and I had, because Kristen Linklater and Tina Packard did and still do. Kristen's not with Tina now. Shakespeare and Company, which is if you ever have a chance, whether you want to do Shakespeare or not, to go to one of their workshops. Sometimes they have a month-long one in the winter in New York. They have shorter ones in Massachusetts, but if you go online for Shakespeare and Company, Kristen does a method called freeing the natural voice, and it's just amazing. And you work text, but one of the things that they believe is, instead of producing that kind of, and that's why a lot of my best friends have gone to Juilliard, and they got to get over it after, because that man, it's training the voice without the intent and the soul. And so, but one of the things that Shakespeare and Company does is that, if this was Elizabethan times, he wouldn't want us getting rid of all of our things, and you let it hang because the idea is hanging. I mean, it's the whole thing. But anyway, so that's what happened with Winter's Tale.
Great.
But I'll tell you this one thing. Oh, that's Dish. Never mind.
Sure?
Oh, I cherish that play because Chris Reeve was in it, and I remember just strolling around and being grand and funny, and Diane Venora, who was like, just brilliant. She's a brilliant actress. And Mandy Patinkin, who is a brilliant actor, but oh, Lord. That Tom Gibson, who is now a big TV star, he and Jennifer Dundas were the lovers, but Mandy, oh, Lord. Mandy was one of those actors that occasionally somebody would get hurt on stage because he was the king, and when he gets charged up, if he's supposed to swat his wife, the next thing she's going like this because he's belted her. And he says, I'm sorry, when I get going and I get nervous and charged up, I just can't stop my power. It's like, and he would come across stage and everybody would back up.
That's great. Danette LaCour asks, what did you do to prepare for your role on The Practice?
Oh, good. David E. Kelley writes really, really good scripts. Mm-hmm. And as you all know, if a script is well written, your work is easy. Yes. All you have to do is do that stuff you know how to do. Do your homework, find out about paranoid schizophrenic. I'm not one of those people that goes to hospitals and, jails and follow people around and all that. It's like, so I know my assistant Kim's mom works in a mental hospital in Vegas, so I call her and I said, okay, I have to play a paranoid schizophrenic. This is how many years, this is the situation. How would it manifest itself physically? Because, thinking stuff, I'm not going to think about, I don't want to drive myself crazy. So how's it manifest? And so she, because at first there were some things that the director was trying to say, like, I want your head just, your head just going. I said to Kim's mom, I said, how would it look? She said, you know what? Everybody is different. It's just like, you would never know that a person is paranoid schizophrenic. They just seem like a person who's having an odd time. So I knew I could find that. And she said, some of the things like the noises and the things that you hear. And she told me like if I got off medication at the 24 hours, what would manifest? What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Cece, my friend is here! Oh my God! Cece! Cece!
You gave my number to a woman who called me up and said she needed Vincent and Sergeant Fifer to have an introduction tonight. I went and did it, and I wrote a drink. I'm waiting to
Okay. It's Diane Lander Simon. She's like really a good person. And I know her. It wasn't just anybody. And she said, we wanted somebody who would be good for ANSA because there's this big thing. And so I said, well, maybe. I thought like your assistant would answer the phone. That's CCH Pounder, you guys. You should be talking to her. Okay, now Cece's my mentor. I feel totally embarrassed. I'm thinking, maybe I'm saying something that's like, oh no, I know nothing. Ask Cece, she knows. But I have to tell you this, it's like, people, believe it or not, they mistake me for, or through the years, they've mistaken me for Oprah, Lynn Whitfield, Whoopi Goldberg, who else? Angela and CCH Pounder. And they'll say, oh, I loved you and whatever. And they'll even say, Angela or, Oprah. And the thing is, I don't look anything like either of those women, and neither of those women look anything like each other. But I'll usually say, oh, that wasn't me. Oh, that wasn't me. They'll say, oh, Cece, I loved you. I say, thank you. I claim her work. I'm like, oh, thank you. Okay, so I asked Kim's mom, how it's manifest. And then I just, you go to that place. That's the thing that you train yourself to do, in training. That's what a lot of professional training in classes doesn't do. Everybody wants to work on scenes. And everybody wants to work on scenes from screenplays. You can't learn nothing working on a screenplay because most of them are not good. And they're built for a format that does not allow for the things we need to think about as actors, right? So even if you're doing an acting class and we're all wanting to work on film, try to get your teacher to allow you to do plays, real plays, things like that. But So what did I just say? I got off about screenplays.
Practice and paranoid schizophrenia.
That place. And that place is what you want to do is in what acting classes should be doing in town are all those things, and it's stand up and everybody doing it together in their own space of getting the body to the point that your gait is not there. Get it working on dialects, working on specific, not like Jamaican, British, and all that, because all of us can do that. But, you know, every state in the South has a different Southern accent. Mm-hmm. And every class has a different one, but everybody does the same Southern accent. So doing that kind of work, working on getting yourself out of the way, working on a point of neutrality from which you start to build a character without you commenting on it, you know, too much of you in the way. And so you get to that place, and then you just, you know, listen, and brick by brick, when it's time to do it. I didn't do it with this one because I didn't want to be her that long. It was like, you're not paying me that much. But usually when I start a role, you know, I wait till I'm about maybe even a week out. I don't pick up the script before a week out. And I notice when, you know, I'm riding along in the car, I'll just say something like her. I keep trying on different ways of saying something. And I keep finding, you know, just finding it. And then if I'm in the store, you know, if this person is a little bit more assertive than I normally, and I start, you know, kind of using it, you know, not what people know, but, you know, kind of using it, you know, letting it come through and working on it that way. That one I didn't want to be it because I knew what I had to do, and I didn't want to have to do it till it was time to do it. And when she's on medication, she is a normal person. I mean, for her, and actually, she enjoys that feeling because she didn't get medication until she was already in prison. And she had been schizophrenic probably from the time she was a teenager, and ended up on the street, just, you know, alienating her whole family, everybody, because nobody knew she was schizophrenic until she had been convicted. So it probably felt good to be who she really was for the first time. So, you know, different things like that. But, and then you just, I do this thing of working. I don't ever work in my head. I don't think of crazy things or think of bad things or think of angry things. It's like I start with just the physicality and the breath. Because if you're breathing deeply, inhale and exhale, you gotta remember to breathe, all the emotion you need and all the character you need will come up on that breath. And then you can sort of shape it and mold it if you want to. And the words should be there to take care of it. They tell you what to do. You don't have to massage them or milk them. They should be good enough at expressing what they want the viewer to feel, that they would do that. So it's like, you know, it's like playing music. You don't grip your flute tighter when it says, you know, with gusto. You know, you use the breath with, you know, in a certain way. So all that to say, you know, then I just kind of did it, but I have to tell you this. You know, it got to be those days where you're like twitching and, you know, and you know, and you have to keep it up, you know, for like 16 hours. And I got home, and my children were like, hey, and, you know, they were upstairs, and they were like hitting it. This is in the house, hitting a tennis ball against the wall and bouncing this big ball. And they were going, you know, you said you had the ball, And I said, kids, Mom has been a paranoid schizophrenic all day, and I cannot take this. and they all stopped, and Mavis said, whoa. And it was like,
Oh, man. Renee Miles asks, do you feel any pressure making a difference in this business as an actress of color? If so, what should actresses of color just starting out do to keep making a difference, to keep opening more doors for the rest to follow?
well, unfortunately, actors do not open doors. And you can't think of yourself as making a difference. Your work is just to be who you are, do your work honestly, keep preparing yourself, so when you do have work, you deliver. And when you deliver and everybody sees it, that makes a difference, but you don't think of making a difference. If you want to make a difference, what you should do, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Remember, say make a difference. But you just keep doing and being. You don't make history consciously. You do what you have to do, and people will say it's historic, or they'll write about it after the fact. But there's no way to make history or make a difference. And you can't open doors until you are hiring people or you're in charge of something. So there is no pressure, and that's just it. Sometimes I have been in a situation where I could say, I'll hear something, they'll say, I'll know that there's some parts, and they're saying, well, and then you say, I know somebody right now, if you called, I know, well, it's not going to work if you don't, so you can put your 2 cents in as you are, you put your 2 cents in. But if you want to make a difference, which we should all be making a difference, because this is good, because we are not working most of the time. Even Tom Hanks is not working all the time. So that is when we use our smarts and our power and our passion to do that social action work. Whatever it is, that's how we make a difference. Whether it's, reading to somebody who is older, who can't see, whether it's mentoring, whether it's just, because it's hard to establish mentorships, I know, because you never know when you're going to be there or not, and they want to have it. But there's places where you can drop in for a day. Whatever your deal is, and I'm not saying it has to be, whatever end of the political spectrum it is, because what it does is, that's the life that we were talking about. That's being alive. So when you walk away from here, if you walk away from Hollywood, or if you live here and your grandkids say, what did you do? You just don't say, well, I was waiting for a call. Yes, I did 5 great movies. Okay, that's 5 great movies, Grandma, but you were in Hollywood for 40 years. What did you do every day? And that's the thing. That's, it goes along with that thing of we have to give. And that's the power. And it actually starts, you understand what is really important, and it helps you put in perspective the rejections or the misunderstanding, I think, that comes from people in power towards us.
Thank you. Carla Vega asks, who are your personal heroes or heroines?
Personal, do you mean creative or just in life?
Carla?
Oh, that's me. I mean, creatively and in life.
There you go. Both.
If I could take Vanessa Redgrave, Mary Alice, and Geraldine Page, and kind of seamlessly roll all 3 of those actors into one, I would be full of myself. I just, those are my people that I look to in terms of staying honest, as an actor. Obviously, Nelson Mandela means a whole lot to me. Jimmy Carter, I am incredibly inspired by. And then, so those are people bottom line, but I'm inspired by the actions of some people. Maybe it's just a couple of things they do, or a couple of statements they've made, and I just kind of, get it from all of them.
Thank you. Zach Fifer asks, how much colorblind casting do you see going on?
Absolutely none. Absolutely none.
Shortest answer we've had all evening.
No, okay, let me just say this. Okay, say you were in a car wreck and, God forbid, in, I keep going to the middle of the country, in Akron. Mm-hmm. Well, if they did it as a television show, okay, no, if they did it as a movie, everybody, and the ambulance guys would have on these T-shirts, and it'd be, you could see them rippling, and they'd all be, doing that, and you'd get to the hospital, and the nurse would be stacked, and she would, and she'd be a little kind of dazed like, and you go in, and everybody, that would be the movie. If it happened on TV, everybody have a sort of a straightforward thing, but everybody would be, there might be a woman taking your name, and now there might be one sort of, sister of color saying, "You better get that person in there quick." But if you were in Akron and you were in a car accident, a big burly kind of hillbilly guy might say, "Come on, lady, you'll be fine. I'll get you in there, put you in the ambulance, take you there." The doors fly open. A little Filipino woman might say, "Okay, now do you have insurance? Do you have insurance?" And you get in there, and then it's like an old woman saying, "Here, sweetie, just sit down." 70-year-old volunteer, he can give you some water, and then they put you in there. The man come in, it'd be like, a gay Asian young guy would say, "You know what? You're gonna be okay. I'm gonna pull some of this out of you." You go, "Uh-huh." And then, some guy just comes in and says, "I'll stitch you back up." And that's what happens in every hamlet in America. Everybody is everywhere doing everything. But it does not happen on the screens of this country. This is the last bastion. They love to say, "Oh, Hollywood, they liberal, they communist, they socialist, they peace people." They like to say all of that, but this business is the last bastion of racism in this country because we don't admit it because we couldn't possibly be that. We don't want to accept the fact that you cannot be in this country and not be racist. It's how we act, because all the images that are constantly fed to us, that's what it is. So our journey, our walk from the time we're kids is to learn how to recognize this stuff and bat it away out of ourselves, as we go along. And people realize that around the country because they live and work together. They may have their neighborhoods might be segregated, but they sit down at that pulp plant and they have a laugh, they have a beer, and they know, they might say, when it comes to it, I just don't want so-and-so to marry my daughter. They might know that, but they know that Bob cares and struggles with getting his kids tuition, just like, Marla does, just like, Antoinette does. So we are that place.
What advice would you give a first-time feature director? There's no name on this.
Do you have money? Who is it, you? Who is it?
They gonna admit?
Ain't nobody gonna ask to be in your movie. Okay, let me just say this.
Okay, it was me, all right? No, I'm just kidding.
If you have money and it's your own, you've got it together on your own, God bless you. Just tell your story. If you've been given the job and the money is somewhere else and they're leaning over you and trying to give you shots and that kind of thing, do that toddler thing of going, "You know what? Yeah. But just find a way to still work, around it the way you do, I'll tell you something in a minute. Remind me about Yvonne Posser. So that's the thing. But whatever you do, don't say, this isn't my vision, I quit. Try. That's a challenge in itself, and it'll only make you a better filmmaker. Try to tell your story within the confines of what you've been given. And just, when you get actors, if you're telling them something, tell them something they can activate. Don't tell them a concept as a direction. Because first of all, it won't help them. It will confuse them. And if they don't know that it's your fault that they're feeling confused and lost, they will panic. But you got to tell them something they can activate. and know that you just keep shooting it until you get it. You know, you shoot it until you get what you want. But Ivan Passer is a brilliant director. He's a friend of mine. My favorite film ever is called Intimate Lighting. It's a picture that he directed. He has since done Cutter and Bone. You can rent that. And he did the Stalin picture, but he's wonderful. But he was in the Czech cinema in the early 60s. He and Milos Forman and some other guys. And one of the things that really honed their craft for them was under the communist rule, they had a censorship board. And so, you know, the Communist Party apparatchik would have to come and see their movie. And so what they were doing was they had this term, they said, saying everything by saying nothing. And what it meant was, okay, I will find a way to make my statement that flies under the radar, to the point that when you see the pictures, and they might be funny like Fireman's Ball and all that, but it says so much about human life, therefore so much about political life, and is a real comment on the communist rule at the time. But he's told me times, like Intimate Lighting, my favorite one, they had him sit and they had this guy, the party guy, come and watch it before it could be shown publicly. And he was sitting there, Ivan said he kept yawning, he said, "This is boring. This is stupid. Nothing is happening here." And so he says, fine, you can show this movie. But within that picture of what happens, just at a dinner party where people come to dinner, it makes such a comment on repression, on how people relate to each other and all that. So you just find a way to do it if there's somebody there. But good on you if you have the money and you're just going to shoot it.
Great, thank you. Phoebe asks, has there ever been a time for you when getting work was like pulling teeth? How did you handle it? How did you focus on building a body of work instead of just taking the job for the money?
Okay, I've never focused on building a body of work. I've always just decided, one, when I read a script, if it, like by page 12, when I'm looking at my part, something's churning when I'm looking at my part. Are we in trouble?
I hope not.
Okay. Oh, and then I start to get excited, and by page 50, I'm praying something really stupid doesn't happen to my, something insulting doesn't happen to my character or anybody else in it where I have to turn it down. But I just sort of, and then I'm excited about it after that, and then I see if they want me or whatever. But you just I go by, what do I feel like doing? I don't want to bore myself, and I don't repeat myself because I'm afraid if I've done that before, even if it means you get paid again, you have to think about sitting on the set, doing something you already know how to do. And I just can't quite do it because I feel like maybe I wouldn't be able to deliver, not because I couldn't, but because, I would be an unruly child. I wouldn't be able to stop laughing or focus or something because it's something I knew how to do. So it needs to be something I know I can do, but I haven't done it. So the challenge is there. Tell me again, because there's another part of that question I wanted to comment on.
Taking the job just for the money.
Well, yeah, what you're doing is they can't pay you enough for it, and you'd do it if they didn't pay you. So you should never take it for the money because it's kind of, even if you need rent money, if it's a job that you wouldn't take if you had your rent money, then you shouldn't do it. Because your rent money will come somehow. If you get put out, somebody will let you come stay with them. You just, especially now that we heard about the foundations.
Yeah.
But if it's something that you feel like you say, oh, I need the money, and that sounds kind of fun. It's not challenging, but it sounds kind of fun. Fun is a really legitimate reason to go to work, or I'm bored, I could do that. That's a legitimate reason. But if it's something that's like, you know what? If I had the money, I wouldn't do this. Then you never should do it. Even if it's nothing sort of, a moral quandary. It's just, whether you would do it.
Good advice. What was it like in the first few years? I mean, did you get a lot of work right off the bat, or was it 1 or 2 jobs a year and then it kind of built?
It still is 1 or 2 jobs a year. I am the rerun queen. I worked once this year, once last year. From the June to January, I worked once, and I did the practice, so I've worked once this year. But that's the pattern for me, is maybe twice a year.
Oh boy, I hope I don't mess up this name. Team Udofia? Yeah? Oh, good. Thank you. Congratulations on your many career achievements. Have you ever been cast in a role that was not specifically written for a black actress?
Yes, I can't remember them now. I'd have to look at a bio. I've actually had probably 3 roles at least that were men, and even older white men. Like the thing I did for Primal Fear. And I remember I knew Greg Hoblet. Only people that know me hire me. I knew Greg Hoblet. He said, I'm doing this movie. And so he said, I've got this part. He says, it's really just kind of a bit part, but it's written for, I've got these 3 judges, I'll just combine them into 1 judge. He said it's written for a 65-year-old white man. And I said, well, if you don't, I said, let me read it. I said, don't change a word and I'll do it. Because I knew immediately if it was supposed to be a black woman, or even a young black woman, I would either be maternal, somehow being the judge. I would, I might talk about I want some ribs for lunch. And one of the characters was that she was a drinker. And I knew if it was a woman, they wouldn't have her drink, so I said that. But I'll tell you something interesting, and this is about casting for everybody. Lawrence Kasdan is a dear friend of mine, and I just say that because he's one of the best people in the business in terms of his heart, his intelligence, his creative intelligence. So if it's true of Lawrence, then you know how it is with people who have no intelligence. He said to me, and I had worked for him before, maybe twice, no, once. And he said, I saw him one fall, and I had my hair really short. It was very kinky, and it was platinum blonde. And I saw him, and we were talking all, and, that I'm friends with his wife, and he's like, oh, you look great, you look great. So then the fall went on. He called me in February, and he said, oh, I saw him at like a fundraiser. And I had like curly hair braided on, kind of, silky curly hair. And I had on like a suit. And before I had on kind of like an Indian thing. And he said, call me. He said, come and see me. I want to talk to you about something. And he said to me, I wrote this wonderful script. He said, and when I wrote it last year, he said, I wanted to do some, I didn't want any movie stars in it. I just wanted to do an honest little movie with some heart. He said, and I wrote this role for you. And he said, I'm going to be honest with you. I saw you last fall, and your hair was short and platinum, and you looked so hot, but I just thought, that's not Lily. Is that my character's name? So he said, so I was trying to find Lily. This is for Mumford. He said, I interviewed, redhead girls, Irish girls. I went for sort of like, funny blondes. He said, I kept trying to find her. He said, and then I realized when I saw you last week, I came back to, I wrote that with her in mind. That's her freaking role. He said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, I was just my last image of you was with this short hair, and you just looked too hip and edgy. And so, that's the thing is that, and everybody's got film on you, and they've seen you do all those things, and they know they've got a hair and makeup department. So it's, you just be aware of that when you're going in. I'm not saying jump on the desk and go, what the fuck, like that. But be aware of that, is that People just can't imagine it somehow. You gotta, it's not, again, when you can, tweak it a little, to go in for whatever you're doing in the most comfortable way that you feel.
Couple more questions?
Sure.
Great. Lisa Clifton asks, in your years of experience, what have you learned as an actress that you wished you'd known when you were just starting out?
That talent isn't the thing that matters, that causes you to succeed. I wish I would have known that. I wish I would have known that it all depends on the way you look. I wish I would have known that it was all about the Benjamins. I wish I'd have known that, like I said, it's kind of, you bring this thing, you escort that child we were talking about into an arena where there's gambling and high stakes and prostitution and conniving and lewdness, and yes, there's fun and there's camaraderie, but there's all that stuff. I didn't know that was it. I thought, again, when along with that nun, there was a Christian brother called Brother Patrick who loved film. He would take us to see movies. He'd shut down the school, 750 kids, go to see whatever film he wanted to screen us. And we saw all the movies you see in film school, and the whole school have to write a dramatic criticism about it. And it was within a spiritual context and a context of art. And that's when I said, I want to be in that. I'm joining that thing. And I didn't know that thing didn't exist. I didn't know that thing was like a fire ship, kind of a, $100 hoe. Frankly, you know what I mean? I have had a good time in it, and it's made me a better person because it's made me really be who I say I am. It's tested, it's made me a more deeply spiritual person, and I love it, and I still care for the people that say things to me, like people who have power that say, you know what? I wish there was something for you to do. I think you're one of the best actors in the business. I wish there was something for you to do. People say that to me who are in power in studios. And they're friends. Not like real friends, but like chatty friends.
Cocktail friends.
What they don't realize they're saying to me is, about themselves is, I don't see you as a human being. Because if there are roles, whatever it is, if there's 100 movies made, does it have to say, a woman that looks just like me, talks like me, and is named Alfre before I can be in it? So if I knew all that, coming from Oklahoma, going to Boston with what I thought I was going to do, I don't know if I would have done it. Maybe I'd being the same person that I am, maybe I would have said, you know what, fuck it, I'm going. Because they're going to be making movies, and I might as well represent. The thing that I have, and the other thing I'll tell you, when there's people saying, oh no, you look like an African, you don't look African American. I just know that. And the point, like I said, I think I am so plain, like who colored child. But the thing that I realized is like it wasn't when the nun say, it's not for you, it's for God. It's not about me. When I get on camera, there are little girls all over this world who feel validated just because they saw me on camera. And I don't mean little girls that say, oh, if she does that, I can do that. That's not what I mean. It's that people know they exist because they see their reflection in a medium that we say reflects reality. If you don't see yourself, that means you do not exist. So when I'm there, it makes my, if I'm supposed to be, I think, because I really don't think I'm cute, But if I'm supposed to be suddenly called on to like swagger and throw my hips and all that, Alfre don't feel like that. But I am saying, because the majority of the women in the world have pigmentation. The majority of the women in the world have full hips. The majority of the women in the world have no bridge on their nose from all the countries in the world. So I know that when I act like I'm whoever, act like I'm sexy, act like I'm powerful, act like I'm knowledgeable, I know that I am representing. So when I say that, I don't mean to say like while I'm acting, I'm thinking everybody in the world. It just when I go to do that, I know that that's my audience. It's that person sitting there. Again, I always imagine people in their underpants. Sitting there that, so how do you think, at least, you see black people show up, even if sometimes, they're doing some wild stuff. How do you think Native American children feel? How do you think little Asian girls feel? How do you think poor white girls feel? Flat-chested girls, boys who don't, are not strapped. But I'm thinking about Mira's movie Kama Sutra. One of the things I loved about Kama Sutra was, besides the fact that everybody was just so brown, you look like you go like this and it get on your hands. When you see those images, you realize how starved you are, not just for your own, but for images of reality. And, people's hair so black, look like, but I'll tell you, there's one guy, and I have nothing against him. I'm sure he's a great brother. But there was one guy, most of the Indian guys, they took their shirts off, and they just had like men body, but they were just like the little saggy, skinny men body, and they were being sexy and hot. There was one guy who was supposed to have been sort of the protagonist. And obviously, I don't know whether the brother was from London or LA or New York, but he was cut. And it was a thing that went, oh, whoa. And he, amongst all those other people in their natural state, it made you kind of tickle. I know he probably thought, or they thought, that's the sexy one. But it was one of you went, whoa, what's the matter? And you realize, but that was Kama Sutra. I forgot how I got on that subject, but look at it. Frankly, it's not one of Mira's best things, but Monsoon Wedding is.
Oh,
yeah. But Kama Sutra, I think it needed a stronger reason for being. The story was too simple, but what it does is just like, it is a feast for the senses. Yeah.
Tonight, you made us all feel really good about being in this business, but more importantly, I think you made everybody feel good about being alive. Thank you for being here.